Yes, yes, yes. We are back. We are back. We are back. Welcome back, as a matter of fact, to the Quiet Storm Sports segment of the Purple Rain podcast. Like the little button says down there, make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel if you are new here so you don't miss any of our great Ravens content throughout this season. Again, my name is Sutton Def, your host here at the Quiet Storm Sports segment of PRP. I want to welcome everybody back in. If this is your second time listening, third time listening, or if it's your first time listening, welcome again. My name is Sutton Def. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here at our wonderful channel and having you join the coveted hashtag Rain Gang. Listen, here we cover Raven sports. So that's what I'm here to get into tonight. Kind of a nightcap episode of the show. Hopefully that's all right with you guys. Hopefully that's all right with you guys. Chris M is in the house. We got Jing in the house. What's going on? How are you guys doing? Let me know down below in the chat, or at least off to my side over here. Let me know. Quony says, what's up, Rain Gang? What's going on, Quony? Appreciate you for pulling up to this stream. Everybody watching on YouTube, shout out to y'all. Make sure you like this video. Please like the video. It does a ton for our channel. Me and Alex should be going live tomorrow. Yeah, also, we are live on X. We are live on Instagram and newly live on Kick. So we will be live on Kick now, streaming on there. So just trying to, expand the platform a little bit here and there. Kick, I feel like, is a good platform with untapped potential. So I decided to go ahead and add the Purple Rain podcast to the mix of that. Also, just while we're in the housekeeping things, and I'm sorry if you're, a part of the replay gang right now and you're trying to get to the Ravens content. I promise it's coming. I promise it's coming. But I will say also be on the lookout for the podcast to be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify very, very soon. Yeah, be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for that. Let me see. We got RJ Ori in the house. What's going on? RJ says white gloves this year. Receivers, all top receivers wear white gloves. Man, we're gonna talk about receivers, right? And we're gonna do a lot of our truthing, right? And that's no pun intended to actual our truth, but we're going to do a lot of our truthing, as in Rashod truthing today, as he had a big day in camp. Definitely want to go over that. But how you doing, RJ? Been a minute since I've seen you in the stream. Hopefully you're doing well. Let me see. Chris says X is such an ugly name for a social media platform. Yeah, I do definitely prefer Twitter. That is for sure 7 days a week. So, yeah. But let's go ahead and let's get into some of this Ravens content, shall we? Because again, a lot to talk about. A lot of things happen, not even just with the Ravens, but around the NFL. So without any further ado, let's get into our little report for this episode of the Quiet Storm Sports. All right. So again, like I said, I definitely want to start with the Rashod Bateman truthing. Today in training camp, as you guys can read here on the screen, probably unless if you're watching on a big screen, if you're watching like on your phone, you might have to zoom in on it, right? But because I still want to keep myself and you guys' comments on the stream as well at the same time. But hopefully you're watching on something a little bit bigger, maybe an iPad. I don't know. But Jonas Schaefer tweeted today, Rashod Bateman and Lamar Jackson are in sync today. Maybe 6 completions already in team drills, including a 50-yard touchdown down the left sideline over Chidobe Awuzie and Sanusi Kane. And Bateman's been the Ravens' top downfield threat in camp. So that's not just today in camp, right? We're talking about the last couple of weeks in camp. Rashod Bateman has been basically the most dangerous receiver, because when you're talking about a deep threat, you're talking about ultimate danger and threat level of what a receiver can do. And so, I really do think that really do think that Rashod Bateman can have a much bigger season than what he had last year. Like I said, I said on another episode of the show, if you are into the whole gambling thing, sports betting, you can go ahead and take Rashod Bateman's over on touchdowns pretty much at whatever line it's going to be, because I only assume that Vegas will set him anywhere between 5.5 and 7.5 touchdowns, at least in the regular season. Let me see. RJ says, been very busy with work and I just got married, but always love to hear you guys. RJ, congratulations to you getting married, man. That is huge, man. Big congratulations. Big shout out to you, RJ. appreciate you for coming through. Always supporting, man. But yeah, that's huge. That's awesome, man. Congrats again. Let me see. Justin Lewis in the house. What's going on, Justin? Says, good evening, Sutton and Flock Nation family. Yeah. What's going on, man? What's going on, man? Welcome into the Purple Rain podcast, or welcome back. Welcome back. About 30 people watching live right now. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Make sure you like the video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on any other platform, make sure you like the video. Favorite the tweet, whatever, But getting back to Rashod Bateman here, man. I think that Rashod Bateman is a guy who, we have to look back on what he was able to do last season and really, I don't even say like we have to set some lofty expectations, I think, for Rashod Bateman, because Rashod Bateman is he's going into, what is it, year I think 5 for Rashod Bateman at this point. Yeah, and in 4 or 5, I think it's just one of those years where he's going to have to step up in a big way, in a very, very big way. And I think that he's primed to do that because of the other weapons that are surrounding him. And he's going to not have a lot of the attention, focused on him like some of the other receivers might, like a Zay Flowers, pass catchers like Mark Andrews, even DeAndre Hopkins, I think is going to be a very big threat and a very big point of emphasis for defensive coordinators this season. So Rashod Bateman, again, he's one of those guys. He's one of those Ravens who can get lost in translation, find his soft spots in the zone, which he's really good at doing. He's actually gotten a lot better doing it in his career as it's gone on. But yeah, man, I think, again, you kind of got to look at what he was able to do last year. I want to pull it up on screen for you guys here. Rashod Bateman's PFF stats, the Pro Football Focus stats from last season. Overall wide receiver grade was at a 70, right? So above average wide receiver. Actually ranked 56. So right at about that average rate, but still green there. And then when it comes to receiving grade, even higher. And my thing is, with Rashod Bateman, he only works with limited targets, right? And it's not like he hauled in everything, but he gets 756 yards and 9 receiving touchdowns, 11 when you include the postseason. I mean, he was top 10 in receiving touchdowns, right? With such limited opportunities. You guys see it right here. Only 45 catches on 67 targets, yet 9 touchdowns. Nobody scored touchdowns at a higher clip, I bet, than Rashod Bateman this past season. It was insane. It was actually insane to watch. And, the one play that I think that Jonas Schaefer was referring to in his report there, it was a deep ball. It was a deep ball right over the top. And at this point in Rashod Bateman's career, that does not surprise me at all, because last season we saw them constantly hook up on the deep ball. Two that come to mind are, the Tampa Bay game, and then also the LA Chargers game, right? Where he's got the defender draped all over him, and it's just like an and one, plus the foul type of situation where he gets interfered with and he still comes down with it. I mean, the guy is absolutely, yeah, he's balling out. He's balling out, and he's only getting better, man. Mayo's Cod Channel, what's going on? Let me see. Jing says in the chat, bestie, September cannot come enough. Yeah. I mean, wow. We're so close. We're so close. Jing also says 1,000 yard season for both Bate and Zay. Wow, that's pretty lofty there. Pretty lofty there. Like I said in a couple of episodes prior, I think that you're gonna see Rashod Bateman have more touchdowns than Zay Flowers, but Zay Flowers is gonna have more receiving yards than Rashod Bateman. I think that that's probably what is gonna happen. That's what I see. Let me see. Huddle It Up Films. My guy Jason was just watching your stream with him and Ryan, the Flock Rundown. They did a great job over there. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to Huddle It Up Films as well, and the Flock Rundown. Like I said, they just did a collab stream, and it was very, very insightful. I got a lot of good information from both of them, a lot of good opinions as well about offensive line count, defensive line, which is something that I was really thinking about myself today. Like, might be a little bit thin there, if one person even were to get banged up. So, but anyways, yeah, make sure you go subscribe to Huddle It Up Films as well. Jing saying Bate is one of the best route runners out there. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Let me see. Let me see. Graylin Walker says, "I'm here to argue." What's going on, bro? One of my friends from back home, man. What's going on? Hope you're doing well. If you're here to argue, then I mean, I don't really know what I can do for you because I mean, we're not really talking too much Commanders right now. I'm not gonna lie to you, but you are a Commanders fan, and I think you guys are gonna be really, really good this season. So let me see what else we have here. Let me see. Oh yeah, but Rashod Bateman. Back to Rashod Bateman, man. I got to get back to my guy. This is a guy who again, like I just said, on 45 catches last year, 9 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know the exact stat on it, but I don't think any other touchdown scored as any other receiver, my bad, scored as many touchdowns as Rashod Bateman at that high of a clip. I mean, I'm just saying, 9 and 45 catches is kind of crazy, especially considering 9 would rank him 8th out of in the top 10 of receiving touchdowns in the regular season last year. Finished with 11 again when you count the playoffs. Scored a touchdown in both the Steelers game and the Bills game in the playoffs last year. So I fully expect, and when I say I fully expect, I fully expect. Let me go ahead and throw this back on the screen here. This highlight. Let's see, with Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, here's the thing. Turn this down. Lamar Jackson, he's developed such a trust for Rashod Bateman at this point in his career. And it wasn't always like that, which is why this is like super exciting, because like before it was like Rashod Bateman, half the stuff that would come his way, he would either drop it or, like either that or he just simply wasn't on the field, right? He was hurt, so much in the early stages of his career. We never really got to see what he would be able to do until most recently. And by most recently, I mean literally just last season. Let me see. I don't know if Bateman. You say you don't know if Bateman cracks 1,000. I don't know either. I mean, just before you got in here, bro, I was just saying how like I think that he's going to be more of a touchdown guy. You know what I mean? I don't really see him getting enough volume to be getting 1,000+ yards, a season, but he can definitely score touchdowns. Like he's a massive red zone threat. But not only that, but you can see the video right here. He's a deep threat as well. And reports coming out of camp, as of today, are saying that Rashod Bateman has been the Ravens' best deep threat in camp so far. And it was shown last year during the regular season. So I'm just saying, man, I think that Rashod Bateman has legitimate wide receiver 1 potential. And you could see, you could argue that, by the end of this season, he could emerge possibly as the Ravens wide receiver 1. I don't think it's crazy to say, there's, I mean, I'll just say this. Scoring touchdowns cures a lot of things. Right? And if you're a guy who can provide a lot of touchdowns, then you are more valuable, like inherently on the team than a lot of other guys. So again, while Zay Flowers, which I hope he has a phenomenal season as well, while Zay Flowers very much he could go out there and have an 1,000-yard, 1,200-yard, whatever, an amazing season. I think that a guy like Rashod Bateman still could outpace him when it comes to touchdowns. And Rashod Bateman might get 1K. We never know. With this deep threat thing, he might crack 1K in 10 touchdowns this season. Then we're going to have real serious conversations, not only in the castle when it talks about like extensions and who we're going to keep, who we're going to cut, or get rid of, things like that. We're going to have real conversations within the community right here about who is the best wide receiver on this team. Because, I mean, the caption of this, I mean, in so many words, is 8 to 7 for 6. And if we're seeing that a whole lot this regular season and just this season in general, again, we might have to have some uncomfortable conversations about who is the wide receiver 1 on the Baltimore Ravens. Let me see. My guy Jason says, also, if we win a ton of games and have big leads, the passing numbers will go down. That's true. If we get into more shootouts, Bateman could get 1K. Yes, and I can totally see that. But, again, it's just the red zone threat. Man. Like there's just so much to worry about down low in the red zone on top of the run. It's just Rashod Bateman, he's going to be one-on-one with, we're talking about cornerback 2 to 3, Like that's what we're looking at here, like competition wise for Rashod Bateman, and that's how it's been the past couple of seasons. You just can't afford to stick your top guy on him, right? Especially when there's the looming Zay Flowers, who I think he's gonna again have a phenomenal season. But yeah, man, yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Jason. When they get in that red zone though, because they're gonna run the ball down low, even in games where they have maybe two cruising to 3 possession leads, right? But when they get in that red zone, I could totally still see them putting the ball in the air, just to throw the opposing team off, and Rashod Bateman leaking out into space when a team is stacking the box, expecting to run and catching the easy touchdown or two. He can definitely steal a couple that way in that fashion. Let me see. My guy Graylin says, I was very high on Bateman coming out the draft. Glad he's improving so much from year one. Was very worried. Yeah, I mean, we were all worried, bro. We were all worried because, I mean, we're talking a first round talent here, right? A first round talent. We didn't know exactly what the deal was going to be with him, especially after those first 2 seasons, because there were so many, like, I remember the Dolphins game where, he takes a slant and then just takes it to the house. It was just like literally like, my gosh, I mean the slant. I mean he had to be only like maybe 7, 8 yards above the line of scrimmage or past the line of scrimmage, and like he just takes it and runs by every DB on the team. Like nobody could get the angle on him. I'm talking like the deep safeties, the DBs who got off of their man once they realized that it was a reception by Bateman. Like nobody could catch this guy. But then he had the Liz Frank injury in his foot, and it seemed like, okay, this is a guy who was really, really big on speed, right? And is he going to be able to get back to that top speed? Was the real question. That was the real question. But obviously now this is going to be his second full year healthy. I think that he's going to be a very, very difficult guy to stop, and honestly, kind of like that silent nightmare for defensive coordinators. I do. Jing says Bate is a great deep threat as well. He creates really good separation. Yes, another thing. I mean, his route running very, very crisp. I mean, he's been known as. I mean, we've known him going into last season. I think we knew Rashod Bateman as just like quite simply a route running technician, right? A route running technician, and now he's developed into a guy who's able to do everything. He can kind of go across the middle of the field. He can get those intermediate routes, right? We saw him do some back shoulder stuff earlier in camp last week. We see him doing the deep ball stuff here. I think that Rashod Bateman, he has all the tools, not to mention the measurables as well. 6 foot something. How tall is Rashod Bateman? It's up here. Let me see. Let me show you guys. So 6'1", 200 pounds, man. I mean, like kind of like a perfect frame for a wide receiver who can do pretty much everything. He's a burner. He can route you up. He can go to anywhere on the field. And by the way, now he's learned his quarterback. He's learned his all-star quarterback. And it showed in practice today. 6 completions, a 50-yard touchdown down the sideline over Awuzie and Sanusi Kane. I think Rashod Bateman is going to be big this season, period. Period. ISO, what's going on? ISO says I'm late, but what's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? What's going on, man? Appreciate you for coming through. Per always. Let me see here. Go back to our chat room. I want to see you guys, what you guys are saying in here. What are you guys talking about? 77 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of the Quiet Storm Sports as part of the Purple Rain podcast. Again, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well, so you don't miss out on any of our Ravens content. And it's not just Ravens, it's NFL in general as well. And then I also cover UFC on this channel too. I'm going to be getting into that a lot more. As I mentioned last night on the episode on the show, I'm super excited about the Paramount deal. So I'm going to be talking a lot more about UFC as well. Let me see what else we have. Mayo's Cloud Channel says, I like Tez to make a huge jump this year, and LeJounte makes the team with at least 2 punt TDs. Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's talk about LeJounte Wester, right? Let's talk about LeJounte Wester out of Colorado, Ravens draft pick in 2025. I think that this guy is going to be, dare I say, and I don't want to just sound like a Ravens homer here. I don't. But I think he has the perfect tools, the perfect football tools to be kind of like a Devin Hester light, I don't want to compare him to the great Devin Hester. But I think about the confidence that he had, and I'm not just talking about the things that Willie Taggart said today, which I want to tell you guys about, but I'm talking more so just the want to and the will to just like burst through lines of defenders. You know what I mean? And he's not the biggest guy. I mean, he's 5'10", about 200 pounds, but he just rips through guys, right? He's just so fast. I think that this guy, especially after watching that 87-yard touchdown return on the week 1 preseason game against the Colts, and hearing the story today from Willie Taggart said that he was talking to LeJontay Wester before the game, and LeJontay Wester, he was asked by Willie. He said Willie asked him, "Hey, like, how are you enjoying Baltimore so far? How are you enjoying the city?" And LeJontay responds by saying, "I'm gonna show the city who I am tonight. Like, I'm gonna pop out on the city tonight. Like, I'm gonna show why I'm here. Like, why I deserve to be here." And just for him to manifest that, for it to come true, and him to score an 87-yard touchdown, as we have 87 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming through. It's just, man, it's gonna be a hell of a time. I think not getting this guy as many reps as you can at punt returner. You know, I know that guys like Ali and some other cats as well are gonna get their burn. Maybe even a Keaton Mitchell. But no, man, I really want to see LeJontay Wester kind of pan out into being like a full-time punt return specialist. That is, especially with special teams being such a big focus on this team with John Harbaugh, kind of being a CEO type of coach, but he's also like a special teams specialist. He should be focusing a lot on this kid, LeJontay Wester, right? For him to have the confidence, to literally manifest and call his shot and say that, like, hey, look, I'm going to put myself on the map in Baltimore in this game tonight, and then actually go out there and do it. Man, he's a guy I'm excited to see in the next preseason game against the Cowboys coming up this Saturday, man. It's going to be, man, yeah. But I definitely agree with you as well on Tez Walker. I mean, Tez Walker is another guy who kind of low key forgotten about, gets lost on this Ravens roster. I'm talking about Rashod Bateman as a guy who's going to get lost in translation and just kind of score here and there. But Tez Walker, when he gets his opportunities, who's going to be guarding him? I mean, we're talking about like the third string DB. You know what I mean? Like, because it depends. I mean, you got to think they're going to throw Tez Walker. You're not going to know where Tez Walker is going to be when he gets out there, because he's probably only going to get maybe like a handful of snaps, like per couple of games, to be honest with you. Just how deep this roster is. So Tez Walker's another guy who could definitely have a sneaky season. I'm maybe predicting maybe like 2 touchdowns for him. He had 1 last year. I think we can bump that up to 2, maybe 3. But there's just so much other talent on this team, bro. So much other talent on this team. ISO says, I'll be on time next time, I promise. All good, brother. All good, brother. As long as you like the video, I'd appreciate that, man. That helps us out a ton. Helps us out a ton. Let me see. Graylin, the Commanders fan, says, Chris, just wait till the Commanders play the Ravens again. Y'all beat up on my rookie. He got some experience now. I mean, hey, man, you got to think, man. It's just Ravens defense is something else, especially in the regular season, dog. Like, you can't, with a rookie quarterback, it's just historically speaking, the Ravens don't lose to rookie quarterbacks, historically speaking. Sorry, bro. But I will give credit where credit is due. Jayden Daniels, I think, is a top 6 quarterback in this league. I think that he is potentially the future, maybe like top 2, maybe not 2 quarterback, if we're talking like 10 years from now. Not even 10 years from now, but like when the Josh Allens, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson, who seem to be like the yester era, which is kind of weird to think, because you would think that those guys have another 10 years ahead of them, but you never know with guys nowadays. I mean, I think that in terms of those guys' primes, like those guys are in their primes right now. Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow. Jayden Daniels was just a rookie last season, so give him 5 years, right, to like get fully in his prime, in the stride of his prime, barring any injuries, things like that. Knocking on wood. I like the kid. Um, barring any injuries, he could definitely be a top 2 quarterback in this league in the next 5 years. Just saying. Just saying. But as it comes to last year, bro, y'all weren't beating us. Y'all were never beating us last year. All right. Let me see what else you guys are saying here in the chat before we move on. Chaos says, I think Washington learned from RG3, or at least I hope. Yeah. See, here's the thing about RG3. RG3 was just like he was a runner, but he kind of ran out of control, right? So I think that's the reason why, he tend to get he got banged up a lot, and Haloti Ngata literally like snapped his knee, and it was kind of wraps from there, But okay, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. I wanted to bring up on the screen. Let me make sure it's up before I switch you guys over. This is just really quick. Okay, this is just really quick here, and I want to get you guys' opinions on this, because it looks like it's almost like a foregone conclusion now that the Ravens, they actually won't be starting any of their starters in this next preseason game against the Cowboys. Like, none of them. John Harbaugh came out and said that today, that the same guys who did not play in the first preseason game, which was a lot of guys, will not play in this one. So basically all the starters. Basically all the starters, excluding rookies, is basically what I'm getting here from John Harbaugh. So Jason says, am I drinking sake? Wouldn't put it past you, bro. I'm just drinking a little wine, brother. Just drinking a little wine. Winding down on the day, talking to my best friends here at PRP, the Rain Gang. Appreciate y'all for coming through again. Make sure you like the video. Over 100 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming out and streaming this episode of the show. All right. So let me see. But yeah, what do you guys think about the Ravens and John Harbaugh not deciding to play anybody in the preseason for the most part? Like, what do we think about that? I really want you guys to comment in the live chat. Like, do you think that the Ravens should, and I get it, there's been injuries across the league here and there, and you might just want to say, okay, just put the starters in bubble wrap and wait for September 7th, week 1. Do that, right? For me, I would prefer if the guys get some live reps. That's the only thing that I'm asking. Like, just give them some live reps. Because again, the last thing I want is the team to start off slow, especially with such a tough schedule in the beginning of the season. I mean, people forget the Ravens dropped the game to the Browns last year. There's always one game per year. And again, the Ravens play the Browns week 2. There's always one game per year that the Browns give the Ravens a really, really hard time. And if the Ravens are to start slow, and I think that is like a product of not starting your guys at all in the preseason, them not getting that live game action, them not getting that muscle memory back of what it feels like to get hit in a game, and getting back in that rhythm, that football mentality, that mode, right? I think that does kind of throw off the team in the beginning of the very, very beginning of the regular season. And if you're talking the beginning of the regular season for the Ravens, you're talking Bills, you're talking Cleveland Browns, you're talking Detroit Lions, you're talking Kansas City Chiefs, in that order, and I can go on. It's going to be a rough start to the season. The season is very, very much so front loaded. So I understand, making sure these guys get their rest and like not risking any injury at all. I understand that, but at the same time, it's going to be a long 17 game season, right? And the way I look at things, like, it's football, right? Like, if guys are going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt. Like, it's 17 long games. You can't tell me 1 to 2 drives in the preseason is going to kill you. You just can't. All right. ISO says, I low-key don't want Mike to play. Bro's our future. I assume you're talking about Mike Green. Graylin says, I think you play your starters at least the last game for 2 drives, get them ready for week 1. See, that's what I'm saying. But like what Harbaugh is saying here by, and I watched the interview. I watched the press conference today. When Harbaugh came out and said this. it sounded like it wasn't just like oh yeah, we think we're gonna hold him out this game too. Like we're probably gonna hold him out this game too. It was just like a straight up, straightforward answer. Like, yep, like nope, nobody's playing week 2, and that leads me to believe that week 3, the final week of preseason, um, they're not gonna start him as well. Like that's just they'll get the question again this time next week, and I guarantee you, John Harbaugh and listen, I don't know. Maybe we can make a bet on this or something. I can make a bet with somebody on what I should do if Harbaugh does decide to. It would shock me if Harbaugh does decide to, go ahead and start a starter or two in the third preseason game. That would be crazy to me. That would be crazy. I just don't see it. I would love it, but I don't see Harbaugh doing it. I don't. Okay, moving on here. See what else I have here for you guys. What else? What else? What else? Oh yeah, we can go to the Browns really quick. We can go to the Browns really quick. So Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders suffered an oblique strain today, will not practice Thursday, and he is unlikely to play on Saturday versus the Eagles. That is a very interesting news. I don't know exactly what happened in practice. I think they said it was early on in practice today that he twisted his oblique or something like that, and had to be held out for the rest of it. And he's probably not gonna play versus the Eagles. Um, you know, I don't know the severity of this injury, but I do like the Browns holding him out. You do not want to risk, especially after what happened last season, especially after what happened not last season, last weekend. I'm sorry, where Shedeur Sanders went out there and pretty much balled out. 14 for 23, like 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Had a couple of down moments, but for the most part, he looked the part. You know, I think that they realize that they have some value now. But then again, all the Browns quarterbacks are banged up right now, from Shedeur Sanders to Kenny Pickett to Dylan Gabriel. Joe Flacco is just, again, he's a million. But, you know, and yes, you're right, Jason. Flacco starting at the bank week 2 is going to be surreal. That's going to be a lot of fun. I do have the Ravens pulling that game out, but hopefully it's not one of those barn burners that comes down to the end. Hopefully it doesn't come down to a Tyler Loop kick, who I'll get to next. Um, but yeah, Shedeur Sanders, again, I really like what I see from the guy. Like I said last night, man, if you are the Cleveland Browns, what do you have to lose? Literally, what do you have to lose? Somebody please let me know by starting this kid. There's nothing that you have to lose, right? He's a 5th-round pick. If he ends up being bad, he's bad. Okay, you move on, right? But this guy, if he's good, I mean, then that means it's going to be great for your franchise because you're going to be bringing in a lot more revenue. That is for sure. That is for sure. Okay. All right. Let me see. Moving on from our guy Shedeur. Like I said, I want to get into Tyler Loop. Let me navigate to my guy Tyler Loop here. So Jonas Schaefer tweeted at the conclusion of practice today that practice just wrapped up, and Tyler Loop went 7 for 9 today, missing from 46 early on in practice and from 48 on a rushed attempt late. That was another thing. That was talked about. That was another thing that was talked about by John Harbaugh today. He was saying that they were doing like rushed field goals, like hurry up field goals. And they practiced it with like the third team. And of course, Tyler Loop is the only kicker on the team, so he ran out there with them. And I guess he missed that kick from 48 on a rushed attempt late. So, you know, let me tell you something about Tyler Loop. What I've gained from him so far. I think that Tyler Loop is a guy who is going to really wow you in a lot of moments, but at the same time, sometimes the more routine stuff, he can be a little bit inconsistent on. And that's just kind of what I've seen in camp. I mean, I think in total he's maybe only missed maybe 6 kicks or 7 kicks, I want to say, in camp out of like the 50 something. I don't know the exact number right there, but like I think that's fairly accurate. Um, he missed one in the first preseason game, but then he bounced back and hit one from I think 50. So, it was all Gucci. But this, I mean, like just hearing that, missing from 46 and 48, like those aren't exactly chip shots, right? They're not exactly chip shots, but At the same time, I would expect you, if you're hitting him from 67, right? If you're hitting him from 67, then like you would assume like a 46 or a 48 would just be like a walk in the park for you. Because if you're banging through a 67-yard field goal, like you're keeping that thing straight for a long time. For a long time, a whole 20 extra yards. Like I just don't know. I mean, obviously he's got the boot, but like I think the kind of story on him coming in was just the consistency. How consistent was this guy going to be able to be? And that's another thing. That's another thing. Preseason is going to be the rest of preseason is going to be crucial for Tyler Loop if he wants to kind of get his sea legs underneath him, for lack of better words, before the season kicks off. Because I'm telling you, man, week 1 in Buffalo, it's gonna be it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a very, very rough environment, and he's gonna have to be ready for that mentally. Of course, physically, he's gonna be ready. He's gonna be ready because he's got the leg for it. But mentally, and I think that again, kicking is a very, very mental thing. It's a very mental game. It's a meticulous process that the Ravens have explained to us before. That like everything that goes into a kick, everything that has to go right, down from the snap well, the hike, the snap, the hold, and then the kick, of course, and all of those things play a big part. So at the end of the day, we don't know exactly where the mishaps could be. It could be with Jordan Stout, at the hold as well. That could be a thing where he's not as consistent as he needs to be on the hold, and that may throw off Tyler Loop's timing or whatever. But at the end of the day, Tyler Loop's got to be more consistent. And again, there's going to be a moment week 1 against the Bills where it's going to be in the second half. The Ravens probably get stopped on a drive. It's 4th and 6, right, from the Ravens 32-yard line. Or not the Ravens, but the Bills 32-yard line. And the Ravens got to kick a field goal, right? You got to kick a 40-yard field goal. And can he make it in Orchard Park with a bunch of fans screaming at him, not necessarily screaming with him like they would do, at the bank, trying to kind of fake distract him and things like that. It's gonna be man, it's gonna be an interesting season. Gonna be a very, very interesting season when it comes to Ravens special teams. Like I mentioned, LaJohntay Wester earlier is a new kind of intriguing prospect that we'll see what the Ravens decide to do with him. And then there's also Tyler Loop, man, who's not requesting, but replacing old Jay Tugger. You know, old Jay Tugger got up out of here, and now we got Tyler Loop, and old Tugger, he was a very, very talented kicker for a very, very long time, and Ravens fans were very, very spoiled from his consistency and his production. And now going to this rookie, I think that a lot of Ravens fans aren't really considering what type of heartbreak they may experience throughout this season. And it's going to feel different when Tyler Loop misses as opposed to when Tucker was missing. I will say that it's going to feel a lot different. It's probably going to feel more like doom and gloom if Tyler Loop misses because like he's a rookie and like you don't have as much confidence in his confidence if he were to go on a kicking, a missing streak or a spree. So just I want to say curb your expectations. If you're a Ravens fan watching this, I would say curb your expectations. Um, again, I think he's going to wow us in some really, really big spots. A 70-yard field goal, I don't know about that, but I could definitely see him knocking one through from 60, in like a random 1 p.m. CBS game or something like that. I could see it happening, but then I can also see him missing a 36-yarder or something, crazy like that, with 3 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Eh, I can see you're gonna have to take the good with the bad when it comes to Tyler Loop. Is basically what I'm saying. You're gonna have to take the good with the bad. So, all right, all right. Graylin says, "I hope I see a Super Bowl so I can be just as ignorant as Philly fans." Yeah, man, seeing a Super Bowl is a different experience, man. I've seen both Ravens Super Bowls. You know, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, man. But I think that the Commanders, they're knocking on the door already. They're knocking on the door, so we'll see. We'll see. All right, moving right along here. Moving right along. What else do we have? What else do we have? What else do we have? Mike Green Also ended practice with a nice win versus Carson Vinson and a pass rush drill. I think my guy Isa was talking about Mike Green here just a little while ago. I think that a guy like Mike Green, man, I was talking about the defensive line earlier, right? And I was looking at some PFF grades for D linemen from last year, and most specifically Nnamdi Madubuike, Travis Jones, and Broderick Washington, Brent Urban, and John Jenkins. Outside of Nnamdi Madubuike and Travis Jones, who are both phenomenal players, Travis Jones was on a bum ankle last year and still performed pretty damn well, and I expect him to be even better this year. But outside of him and Nnamdi Madubuike, all of our other defensive linemen are right now considered below average. Right now, considered below average. Just simple as that. I know there's like a CJ Okoye who's floating around out there, who's a big name right now. Not sure if he will make the team or not at this specific juncture, but the defensive line I could see kind of being a little bit thin, and I think that we were really missing Michael Pierce, because Michael Pierce graded out really, really high last season in pass rush and run stopping, in both, right? And he retired, and I think that that's another kind of key missing part. So I mean, the you know getting rid of Justin Tucker and Michael Pierce retiring, those are going to be two departures that are going to be felt by the Ravens, I think. We talk about some of the defenses that we face, not defenses, but the running backs that we face early on in the season. I mean, we're talking about week one, James Cook, who just got paid today, $48 million deal, $30 million guaranteed. He's going to be very, very motivated. You know, uh, week three, Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs, right? It's gonna be, man, it's gonna be crazy, man. They got Sonic and Knuckles down there in Detroit, so I think that later in games, like Killer Cam says here, we got pushed versus the run last year. That could be a common theme in this one, and I could definitely see more of Kyle Hamilton playing around the box area to try to help stop the run. I think that's going to be a big role of his. Hopefully, Malachi Starks is developed enough to where he can kind of hold down that backside, because we're going to need all hands on deck stopping the run this season, I think. I really do. I really do. So, uh, but yeah, but otherwise, I mean, talking about Mike Green, because that's who this was originally supposed to be about. I think that the pass rush, the outside linebackers, the edge rushers are going to have to be very, very talented this season. They're going to have to go off. I mean, Adafe Owe and Kyle Van Noy, of course, we know their sack production. But Mike Green is a guy, and Tavius Robinson is another one who I don't want to let go, um, untalked about. Those guys are really going to have to step up. And I think that, again, Travis Jones and Nnamdi Madubuike are going to be really, really good. But what happens later in games when those guys are kind of got the Gatorade symbol next to their name, and we gotta rotate these guys out, and we're relying on like John Jenkins and guys like that, and CJ Ravin. Like, I don't really know what the plan is gonna be, and Zach Orr, in that regard, he's got his work cut out for him. And I was talking about last night the three position groups that I think are the biggest questions. I'm gonna have to go D line for one of my three position groups. D line. I'm gonna have to go linebacker, and then I'm gonna have to go guard. We all know what's going on with guard. I talked about that at length on last night's episode about good old Daniel Faalele. Whether or not what you feel about Andrew Voorhees, that's kind of up to you. Some people are back and forth on him, but definitely both guard spots are still questioned. So those three position groups right there are the biggest ones I think to look out for. But hopefully, again, our edge rushers can definitely step up. Hopefully. Let me see what else. The Ravens have waived undrafted rookie running back Marcus Major Jr. per the NFL transaction wire. Concussion sidelined him for much of training camp, and the Ravens will rely on running backs Rasheen Ali, Dearness Johnson, who they just picked up, and Myles Gaskin as well, who they just picked up, versus Dallas. So those are going to be the running backs we see: Rasheen Ali, Dearness Johnson, and Myles Gaskin versus Dallas. Again, Keaton Mitchell dealing with that groin injury right now, so probably won't see any of him for the remainder of the preseason, if we're being honest. So those are the running backs we're rocking out with. Also was mentioned today at the presser that Cooper Rush is going to get a lot more opportunity. Cooper Rush, who did not play well. I mean, all the backup quarterbacks did not look good. I mean, from Cooper Rush to Devin Leary. But Cooper Rush spoke today, and he didn't sound excited at all. I don't know if you guys heard that interview, but hopefully he can kind of shake. He's kind of shaking off some of that rust, so we can see what these receivers are able to do on this team. But that was other news. In other news, let me see what else we have. DeAndre Hopkins still sidelined today. Kyle Hamilton missing at practice. Jair Alexander missing at practice. Jalen Armour Davis missing at practice. I think a lot of this as well is definitely going to be, you know, a lot of this as well is just John Harbaugh and the coaching staff being extra cautious, which again is pretty much all the reason why I say that there's absolutely no way that John Harbaugh decides to start anybody in the preseason, start anybody who's anybody in the preseason. So, yeah, let me see what else we have. What else? I don't think that there was too much. Got to the Shedeur injury. Oh yeah, I do want to shift gears and talk about my UFC, right? I want to do my UFC column for the night as well. So as you guys know, let me pull it up on screen for you guys here. UFC 319. UFC 319 is this weekend. It's this weekend, man. I cannot wait personally. I will be watching this fight. It's going to be a banger, if you ask me. It's probably my most anticipated fight of this year, man. I think that fights like Charles Oliveira versus Ilya Topuria that happened about a month ago and some change. That one was super entertaining. Ilya got the knockout. I was looking forward to that one too. Maybe a couple other fights earlier in the year, but this one right here, this fight just has what the kids call aura around it. I mean, you got Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Dricus du Plessis is the champion. He's beaten a lot of other champions. He beat Israel Adesanya. He beat Sean Strickland. And both of those guys he beat pretty much with relative ease. He beat Sean Strickland twice, in my opinion. Uh, and look, man, and not even in my opinion, I mean, he just beat him. But Khamzat Chimaev is a guy who since 2020, so since COVID, right, he has had this kind of aura around him as like the boogeyman. He is a crazy wrestler who you just cannot simply get off of you. Like when he wants to take you down, he's going to take you down, you know. And that's one thing about him. Like it's inevitable. Dricus said today in a press conference, he said that yeah, I mean he's probably going to take me down, right? That's what du Plessis said. The guy on the left, the champion, right? So this is really like a pick 'em. I wouldn't bet on this fight at all. I just really wouldn't. But if I had to, like gun to my head, who do I pick for this fight? I would go Dricus du Plessis. And as much as I think that Khamzat is a scary fighter, Dricus is just he's got the gas tank, man, and I think that he can weather a storm. He can weather a storm early, and if he can weather that storm, I think that the fight will swing towards his favor. And a lot of people are saying this. I'm not like kind of like on an island with this. A lot of people are saying this. Killer Cam says Khamzat. I would love to know why you think Khamzat, but I think that again. Dricus, man, he's just got something to prove because I think that he's probably the underdog for this fight. I would love to know. Let me see the odds on this. Who's the underdog for this? Who is the underdog? UFC 319 odds. Du Plessis Chimaev. UFC 319 best bets. Dang, I wish I had my sports books here, but they don't have them in my state, which is crazy. Can't even readily find this line here. But I would assume that Vegas is actually favoring Khamzat Chimaev because Khamzat Chimaev is he's favored. I think it's right here. I just saw it. Yeah, so Khamzat Chimaev is a minus 220 favorite over Dricus du Plessis, which is crazy because Dricus is the champion. Dricus is the champion, but yet he's the underdog here at plus 180 for the middleweight title. And I think a lot of people think that Khamzat's going to win because, I mean, again, at the beginning of these fights, it's just like relentless takedowns, relentless takedowns. And let me get Best Buy off of the screen because they are not sponsoring us. So get out of here. All right. But anyway, anyway, you guys get the point. I think that, again, for me, and Killer Cam says the skill difference. Gray says I like du Plessis. I like du Plessis as well. I like du Plessis as well. And the reason for me, again, is mainly because, again, I don't see him folding under the pressure early of Khamzat Chimaev. I don't see him folding under the pressure early of a Khamzat Chimaev. I see him holding his ground very, very well early on. I think that Khamzat is going to have to do a lot of downloading of information against Khamzat, especially not Khamzat, against Dricus, especially if Dricus is able to stuff the first takedown. Because the thing about Khamzat is his takedowns are predictable. The problem is it's still super hard to stop them, even if you know they're coming. But I think that a Dricus can, you know, if he can stay ahead of him, I think he'll probably try to keep it at range, at distance early to try to wait for that first shot. Khamzat's the type of guy, he's going to shoot for your knees. That's how low he goes. That's how committed he is to the takedown. So if Dricus just kind of baits out the shot and he's able to stuff the first one early, he's probably going to try again because that's what those wrestlers do. Those Russian fighters do. They chain together takedowns. They just try to wrestle you till you get tired and you just are like, okay, let's wrestle. That's what they do. But I think that Dricus can, if he can stuff him early, and kind of make Khamzat kind of download information on Dricus on, okay, how can I get this guy down? How can I get this guy down? And maybe get into the second round with doing that. Dricus can start to land some punches. Dricus he's got lunch boxes for hands. Dricus has lunch boxes for hands, quite literally. So if he can land a couple of shots on Khamzat, I could see Khamzat potentially gassing a little bit faster. I mean, this is his first 5-round fight in the UFC. I could potentially see by if he gets dragged into like the late third round and God forbid the championship rounds 4 and 5, I really, really favor Dricus. I really favor Dricus du Plessis. So that's probably going to be like my bet of the week. Plus 180 on Dricus du Plessis money line. I think that's good money right there. That's very good value. Very, very good value. King Blaze in the house says, sitting here recording music. I didn't know you made music, man. Yeah, when do we get to hear it? Says Jing. When do we get to hear it? Thank you for coming through. But yeah, man, I think that's actually gonna do it for this episode of the show, guys. I mean, we are almost about an hour in. It's kind of like a light news day today. We covered a lot of stuff though. So if you're just getting in here, it's all good. If you're watching on Twitter, if you just joined on Twitter, make sure you go over to the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, hit the rewind button on the latest video that will be on here right after the stream is over, and rewatch this and become part of the hashtag replay gang. And then also the Rain gang as well. But also, I do want to give a big, big, big shout out to our Purple Rain patrons as well. We've got some members in the house. I see Jing is in the house, a member. We got Chris M in the house as well, who's also a member. So shout out to them. And also, again, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Instagram, shout out to you. If you're watching on Kick, shout out to you as well, which we are now live on that platform too. One last thing, this podcast will be available in audio form in the morning on Apple Podcasts, if that is where you get your podcast, and Spotify as well. So yeah, again, my name is Sudden Death. You guys can follow me if you're watching on Twitter right now. It's been a pleasure talking with you guys tonight. I will see you guys tomorrow, Thursday, with my co-host Alex, as I think he's back from vacation now. To be determined. But we should be back tomorrow for episode, I want to say 320 something of the Purple Rain podcast. So with that being said, make sure you stay positive always, test negative always, and never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. It's been yet another episode of Quiet Storm Sports featuring your host Sudden Death. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.